Alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak if you're watching this in Ramadan. This is hopefully a quick, less than 30-minute video about how to pay your zakat. This really came about as a result of me having conversations with my clients, with my followers online, and realizing that a lot of us have a lot of confusion about paying zakat and we don't quite know how to calculate it fully, even though there are zakat calculators that help us out, and I'm going to be showing you how to use those today, inshallah. But yeah, I just was like, I feel like this needs to exist and it needs to be shared and people need to use this. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Melek Kudaimi. I am Syrian American. Alhamdulillah, I'm a financial coach for Muslim women, and I did get trained and certified as a financial coach, alhamdulillah, and I've learned Islamic finance from a lot of Islamic finance seminars that I've attended throughout the last decade. I was very privileged to start my business in 2021. I help Muslim women manage their money, invest in a halal way, and use credit card miles and points to get free flights, which I love, alhamdulillah. And again, created this video because, again, realized a lot of us don't know how to pay zakat, and that left me like deeply distressed. So hopefully this video will be beneficial to you. If you want to connect more, you can find me on Instagram or on TikTok at It's Malak Kudaimi. So hopefully we can get connected there. So let's go ahead and just talk about what this video is going to talk about. I realize that was probably redundant. So we're going to cover who needs to pay zakat, when to pay your zakat, how to pay your zakat. I'll do a tutorial of how to use a zakat calculator, how to pay the zakat on your investments. I'll also use a tutorial there. And then we'll talk about who can receive your zakat and if you haven't paid zakat in previous years. Disclaimer, I am not a scholar. This is knowledge, again, that I have gathered from attending Islamic finance seminars over the years. I always consult a scholar, especially one versed in Islamic finance. If you're not familiar with Sheikh Joe Bradford, he is a great resource. Nope, that is my profile. Sheikh Joe, mashallah, he studied in Medina, and his whole specialization is in Islamic finance in the West specifically. So he's quite knowledgeable, mashallah, on this topic. So you can go to him as a resource. Okay. So I really want to emphasize, like, why is it important that I'm talking about this? Because zakat is literally the fourth pillar of Islam. It is one of the five pillars that basically make you a Muslim. It's really important to pay it. And after the Prophet's death, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were whole wars that happened because people basically refused Islam and refused to pay zakat. They were called the apostasy wars. They happened during the Khalifa of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So it's very serious. Like, for you to pay your zakat and for you to not pay it is also a big deal, right? So now I understand sometimes you may not have known that zakat was due upon you and you may not have paid for a while. So if that is you're in that boat, I talk about that at the end of the video, inshallah. But in general, if you owe zakat, you have to be paying it every single year. Okay. So now let's get into the conversation of who needs to pay zakat, right? So you need to pay zakat, obviously, if you're Muslim, if you're of sound of mind, right? Like you don't have any deeply debilitating mental health issues. And if you have had more than the nisab amount for at least a year, then you need to pay zakat. So you might be like, what is nisab? What does that mean? Okay. Nisab is basically it is the total value of gold. It's called the gold standard, or basically the threshold, that the amount of money that you need to have in order to be eligible for or zakat liable. Okay. So this amount is commonly calculated through the value of gold, which fluctuates all the time. It can be calculated using silver, but it's just not as common. I would say the gold one is more common. So in 2025, which is the year that I'm filming this video, and you might be watching this in 2029, who knows? But in 2020, it's anywhere between 77,500 to 8,500, depending on the calculation used for gold. Whatever zakat calculator you end up using, go with that amount that it says on that zakat calculator, or if there's like a masjid nearby local masjid that you use, that would be the best indicator as well of what the nisab value is for you. Okay. So what does this mean? So what this means is if the total value of basically all the money that you have in your bank accounts, your investments, any cash, gold and silver that you don't use on a daily basis, if you just have a bunch of gold bars or gold jewelry that's just kept hidden in a safe somewhere, business inventory, if you're a business owner, if you have any investment properties, all of this, if the total value of all of those things is above the nisab, so the $7,500 to $8,500 number that we just talked about in 2025, and you have had that amount for more than a year, okay? I'm talking lunar year, right? Or like the Hijri calendar. You've had that amount for more than a year, then you owe zakat for that year. Okay? So it's very possible that you might be paying zakat every single year on some of the same stuff that you have. If you have an investment property, like you're still, or gold, right? You're going to be paying zakat on that thing every single year unless there's a year where you fall below the nisab amount and you don't pay zakat on it. Okay? Now, the other question that comes up frequently is what if you have debt, right? So my understanding is when calculating zakat, you only deduct the amount of any upcoming debt that's like in the immediate future, right? So if you have a large amount of debt, but it's split into monthly installments, like if you have a car loan, a student loan, a mortgage, or even if you have a personal loan that someone is like slowly, like they gave you time to pay it off, you only deduct from your zakat amount that's due in the next month. Okay. It's not, oh, I have 100K mortgage or whatever, so I'm going to deduct the entire 100K. And basically, I don't qualify for the nisab anymore, even though you have like 20K sitting in your bank account, right? It doesn't work like that. It's really just like the immediate future, right? Any payments you have in the immediate future. And in addition to that, you deduct any personal expenses like rent, utilities, groceries. If you have just these fixed payments that you have to be making in the next month, you would deduct those as well. Okay. So the question might be, okay, then, all right, how do I understand that I probably need to pay zakat then? And what do I do? So there's a lot of different Zakat calculators out there. My preference is either Islamic Relief Zakat Calculator, which I've pulled up right here, or the Institute of Knowledge's Zakat Calculator IOK. This is the one that I'm going to be using in our tutorial today. It's like my personal favorite. I feel like a lot of other Zakat calculators are like really confusing and they make your head hurt. So we're going to keep it simple. All right. So these are my favorite. And then when it comes to your investments specifically, the zakat, how we calculate zakat on your investments is a little different. And oh my God, I'm like totally blanking because I forgot to mention that the zakat, let's go back real quick. The zakat due, if you have above the nisab amount, okay? The zakat due on the amount that you have is 2.5%. Okay. I forgot to mention that is a crucial part of paying zakat. So it's only 2.5% that you have to pay. However, with that being said, when it comes to investments, the zakat, how we calculate like what is eligible for to be included in your zakat calculator is a little different. If you guys are familiar with Zoya, if you're not familiar with Zoya, I'll just show you real quick. This is not sponsored yet. Hopefully one day. Zoya is a halal stock screener. So they show you like literally, okay, this company is Sharia compliant, this is not, and how much of it is compliant or not. Okay. So one of the things they've come up with is this zakat calculator. So this helps you calculate the zakat on your stocks and funds. I'd highly recommend if you have any investments in retirement accounts, in just normal investing for everyday goals, then you use this calculator. And I'm going to show you how to use this in tandem with a normal zakat calculator. I do also have a free guide that I've put together on how to calculate the zakat on your investments. So showing you in written format, basically what we're going to talk about in today's video. So if you prefer a written format with screenshots over a video, then this also exists and I'll link it in the description below, inshallah. I will also be linking all of these resources in the description below so that you guys, the calculators, everything that we talk about, inshallah. Okay, let's see. Okay, now let's talk about when to pay zakat. So there is no specific time to pay zakat, but you do need to start paying zakat as soon as you hit the amount above the nisab and you've had that money for more than a year. It does need to be paid the same time every single year. So if you pay your zakat every year on the first day of Ramadan, then next year it also needs to be paid on the first day of Ramadan. So pick a date that is easy for you to remember that you're like, every single year I need to pay my zakat on this date. Personally, I like the first day of Ramadan because it's so easy to remember. And in general, people like paying their zakat in Ramadan because it's an easy time to remember and people are feeling extra charitable anyway. But really, you can pay it at any point during the year. Just keep like a consistent time, right? So I just told a client recently to be like, hey, maybe choose the middle of Ramadan. Maybe Ramadan 15 every single year is when you pay your zakat, right? Just choose something that is pretty Pretty straightforward. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and do a very quick tutorial of the Zakat calculator that I love to use, which is the IOK one. So IOK is an institute based out of Diamond Bar, California, which if you don't know where that is, in Southern California, beautiful sunny California, which is where I come from as well. So let's go ahead and do this, okay? So cash on hand. Let's say a lot of us don't just have cash laying around. So let's just say, like, even if it's $50 that you just have in your wallet or whatever in your drawer, go ahead and put that $50, okay? We want to be like as accurate as possible here. Balance held in bank accounts, checking and savings. So obviously, if you want to log into your bank dashboard, figure out how much money you have in there and put that in. So I'm just going to put $20,000 for the sake of this example. Okay, now if you see anywhere in the calculator, it's saying value of shares, stocks, value of retirement plans, we're going to go ahead and put 0 in the normal Zakat calculator because we're going to be using this one, okay? And I'll show you how this all ties together in a minute, but please bear with me. Okay, now let's move on. Business inventory, real quick. So this is if you obviously have a business and you have inventory, whether it's like retail or food or whatnot, this would apply to you. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about this. Then we're talking about rental income. So if you have like investment properties, like a vacation home or a second investment property, this is not the main property that you live in, okay? If you have a house, that doesn't count, okay? That you've bought that you live in currently, that doesn't count. Any gold and silver that you might have, so we need the value in your currency, right? So what you'd want to do is figure out, you'd want to put value of gold per gram, right? So you can use, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Just choose one. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you can do this gold price per gram, per kilo, per ounce. So you can weigh yours gold or silver. Do the same thing for gold. Figure out how much it is. If you have 50 grams of gold, you want to times it by this number right here and get that number, and you're going to want to put it in the calculator. Okay, so let's say we do that and we come up with $2,000. Okay, and again, this is gold that you do not wear on a day-to-day basis. If you wear it on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't count. This is more, again, you have just gold in a safe somewhere, whether it's gold bars or a bunch of fancy jewelry that you don't really wear. That's what I mean. If you have lent anybody money recently, so we're going to count that amount in. So we're going to, let's say you loaned like a family member $1,000 recently. Okay, so that's going to count. And then anything here like other income, like gifts, allowances, bonuses. If you got married recently and your husband gave you mahar, if you got a bonus at work, anything like that, we're going to count. So let's say somebody has a bonus here of $500. Okay. Alrighty. Now we're going to go into our debts. So this is what I mean. If you have these monthly loan payments, whether it's from a mortgage or a car loan or student loan, personal loan, we would put here. So let's say you have a student loan of $500 each month, plus your uncle lent you $10,000 and you're paying him back $500 a month. So you have a liability of $1,000 in the next month. Then we're going to put in your rent and your utilities. So let's say the combination of your rent, your utilities, your groceries, whatever, is $3,000. Wages due to others. So this is going to be like mostly if you have a business and you have employees, you need to pay. Okay. And right here, it's going to give us the amount of zakat that is due, right? So it's saying based on this information, we owe $488.75. However, we are not done because we still need to figure out the zakat on your investment situation, okay? So what we're going to do is go to the Zoya Zakat calculator. Now, if you're interested in what the methodology is for how they calculate zakat, they do have it right here, so you can read more into that. We're not going to go into that right now because it's going to make our head hurt. But really the way this works is the calculator is going to ask what shares of each fund that you're invested in. It's going to ask for those, right? So let's say I'm in here invested in one of the, where am I going with this? One of the halal investment funds, right? You're going to click H, you're going to find it, right? So here's HLAL. You're going to put, let's say you're invested in 20 shares. Most likely this is going to be, most of you are going to be choosing long-term here, unless you're trying short-term is less than 12 months or a year. More than a year is you're invested like for more than a year, which I hope you are. Then yeah, you're going to add that, okay? So you'd add that. And then it's going to show you, okay, based on these many shares of this fund, then your zakat due is 339. And then what you'd want to do is take this number and add it to this number. to get your total zakat liability, okay? This is very important. But you want to make sure you put 0 here so you're not double counting, all right? Now your question might be, and this is super fair, okay, Malik, how do I figure out how many shares I have? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you. For them, there are two ways, okay? I am sharing here my Fidelity account. Hopefully I can blur this part out. If not, oh, inshallah khair. Basically, when you log in to your dashboard, your investment dashboard, whether it's your 401k at work, whether it's just your normal investments, you're going to be able to pull up your accounts here. You're going to want to look for positions or balances, something like that. And then what you're going to want to look for is these are we call them the ticker symbols, the name of the funds. And you want to look for quantity. Okay. This is what you're looking for, right? If I were invested in HLAW, I'd put 29. I'd go back to the Zakat calculator. I'd put 29, right? If I can actually, let's just do this together, right? HLAW, right? 29. We're going to add, keep form open to add another. Great. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to find whatever else I'm invested in, right? Now, something to keep in mind, right? Let's say you have SPUS, for example, I'm invested in my individual account here and my Roth IRA. So I'd need to add both of these quantities together. Okay, I need to add the 39 and I'm going to need to add the 38 here. Okay, and I always recommend that you round up versus round down when it comes to the quantities, just so you can be as accurate as possible, right? SPUS, I've got 38, I've got 39, which I cannot for the life of me do the math for that because I suck at math, ironically. So that lets me know, okay, I have 77 shares of SPUS. We're going to close this. I'm going to go back to the Zakat calculator, SPUS, 77 shares. Okay. And you keep doing this for all of the different shares that you have. All right. Now, go ahead and click that. Okay. Sometimes you might log into your dashboard and you might find that they don't have it as clearly laid out as Fidelity does. It might be a little bit of work. So what you're going to want to do instead is go to documents. Okay. Anywhere you see documents, you're going to want to find the most recent statement. You're going to want to click on that most recent statement and again, find the number, find right here, the ticker symbols, find the quantity. Okay, this is what we're looking for. Go ahead and take that quantity, put it in the Zakat calculator, and go from there. Now, if you have Wahid Invest, if you're invested in Wahid Invest, they are only they're a phone-only app. So I recorded a little tutorial of the Wahid Invest interface. It's like 1.5 minutes. I'm gonna edit it and stitch it to this part of this video so I can show you guys what that looks like as well if you have Wahid. Okay, but let's say you do all of that, right? You figure out how much you owe. We're going to calculate. Just waiting for it to do its thing. Okay. And now it's telling you that the total zakat due is $12.89. So you're going to take this number again and add it to this number. Once you have that, then you will have the total amount of zakat that you owe. And now I'm going to show you what the Wahid interface looks like. So sometimes you won't be able to find the number of shares that you have just immediately when you log into your dashboard. That is the case for Wahid if you're invested with them, and Wahid is an app on your phone. They don't have a web interface anymore. So I'm going to show you how to find the number of shares through Wahid. So you're going to click on their app. You're going to click on documents. You're going to find the most recent documents that they have. That you have. So I have 2 accounts with them. I have a Roth IRA and I have an individual account. So I'm going to click on the Roth first and it's going to open the document for me. Where you want to go is, it looks like it's page 2 for Wahid, but what you're looking for really is you're trying to find the shares that you're invested in these funds, and again, the quantity, right? This is the information that we need. So you're going to get that for one account. Let me go back to Wahid real quick. I'll do that for the individual account as well. And then we have the quantity again. So something you might notice is in both my Roth and my individual account, I'm invested, for example, in HLAW, right? So if I had X amount in my Roth and X amount in my individual account, I need to add both of these quantities and anywhere else that you might be invested in the same funds in any other accounts. All right, so this is what you're going to want to look for. Okay, so now that hopefully you saw what the Wahed interface looks like, if you are invested with them, if you're not invested with them, then you don't need to worry about it. Okay, I will also say, if you feel like this is really tedious and you're like, I don't want to do this, I'm just going to take the full amount, like the balance in my retirement accounts and my stocks and whatever, and I'm just going to include it here and have it be calculated in the main Zakat fund, Zakat account. That's fine. You're going to be overpaying quite significantly, actually, which is why I recommend you do this method. But if you're okay and you're like, my intention is I want to make sure I'm okay with overpaying as long as I pay my zakat, and if I do overpay, then Allah will put barakah in this for me and Allah will count it as sadaqah and whatever, then you don't have to go through this hassle. This is more so if you want to be like really accurate. And then something else that might come up is, our retirement accounts, is zakat due on retirement accounts? Zakat is There's a difference of opinions. So one opinion is that you don't need to pay zakat on your retirement accounts because technically you don't have access to them. You don't have access to the money until the age of however much it is. In the US, it's 59 and a half. And because of that, you pay zakat on those accounts when you pull them or withdraw them in retirement. The other opinion, the one that I take personally, is that yes, technically you don't have access to those accounts, but you do, right? If you needed to, at least in the US, you can pull the money, you'll pay taxes and fees on it, but you can still access the money, right? So because of that, you should still add it to your zakat calculation. Again, I like to be safe and I take the second opinion, but if you are more convinced with the first opinion, then go with that, inshallah. And besides that, I lost my train of thought, but it's fine. We're gonna keep going. So now let's talk about, let's say you got your zakat calculator and now you're like, okay, who do I pay my zakat to? So there are very specific eligibilities when it comes to zakat. There are 8 groups of people that are mentioned in the Quran specifically who are recipients of zakat. Okay, in Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions who the zakat needs to go to. So this is the ayat. It's Surah Tawbah, ayah 60. And so here is basically the 8, right? It's the poor, al-fuqara, right? Low income, the needy, someone who's in difficulty, those who administer zakat themselves, those whose hearts are to be reconciled, meaning new Muslims and friends of the Muslim community, those in bondage, which I don't really believe applies in modern world anymore, the debt-ridden, for the sake of Allah, the wayfarer, okay? So what I will say is that a lot of scholars really emphasize when it comes to zakat to focus your zakat on going for the poor and the needy rather than the other categories, because these get a little murky and get a little complicated, and to just focus here. And a lot of like organizations will be focusing the zakat for this group of people. Okay. When it comes to paying our zakat, if possible, give it to someone that you know. Okay. If you know someone who is in financial difficulty, who is severely low income, like they're below the poverty line, or you know someone who knows someone who needs zakat, that would be best if you can give it locally, right? If not, if you don't know anyone, or your network doesn't know anyone, your local masjid distributes zakat, or a local nonprofit. And then a common question is like, what about overseas? There's a lot of like need overseas. So some scholars say is what you can do is split your zakat between local and overseas, right? So in this case, let's say this person owes around $500, right? They can give $250 for overseas to a nonprofit overseas, and they can give $250 to a local nonprofit, right? To kind of balance. What about giving zakat to family members? So this little screenshot is from Islamic Relief's website. But basically, the general understanding is family members cannot be your immediate dependents or someone that you're obligated to take care of in Islam. You cannot give zakat to your parents or your grandparents. You can't give zakat to your children or your spouse, especially a husband, a man to his wife, because he is obligated to take care of her. And my understanding is also relatives who are your dependents and you've taken their livelihood on as well. I would consult a scholar about that, but other relatives should be okay. But I really would consult a scholar on this for your individual situation. If you have a local imam that you can ask, I would go and ask them. Okay, now when it comes to paying your zakat, again, because we talked about how zakat needs to be given to a very specific group of people, you want to make sure that when you're donating online that you are checking the zakat button. Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. So let's say you want to donate to Human Appeal, right? Let's say you're like, I want to do whatever, feeding people in Ramadan, right? You're gonna do 250 because you're gonna do 250 for overseas. You want to check the zakat right here button. Okay, do not check sadaqah because sadaqah is like there's not restrictions on sadaqah in the sharia the way there is on zakat. Okay, so you really want to make sure you hit that zakat button, okay, before you check out. And then the kind of final question that I'm going to address is what if you realize you haven't paid your zakat in previous years and you probably had zakat that you owed and you just maybe didn't know, or maybe you weren't as practicing or whatever, right? This is a question that I got asked on my Instagram stories recently that I was able to tag Sheikh Joe Bradford to answer. So let me see if I can make this a little bigger so you guys can read it. But basically, the question was, I started paying zakat in my mid to late 30s, but I haven't throughout my 20s and early 30s due to lack of knowledge. I don't want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hate me. Any thoughts? So my response is my understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy is that He doesn't fault you for what you didn't know. And that's just like the general rule of thumb when it comes to Islamic knowledge. And now I wasn't sure about the fiqh ruling, so Sheikh Joe Bradford was able to step in, and he says that the general rule is that ignorance of the rules does not absolve you from complying with them, even if it may absolve you from the sin. You still have an obligation to back pay for those years. What you should try to do is make a good faith estimate of what you had in those years and what zakats might have you might have owed, and then give that away as give that as a way of fulfilling that obligation and absolving yourself of any further delay. So I hope that this is helpful, inshallah. Next steps is calculate your zakats and make sure that you pay it. Find the links to the resources that I mentioned in this video in the description. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And please share this video with anyone who might find this helpful. And let's stay connected, inshallah, on Instagram or TikTok. And hopefully I will see you guys there. And I just want to conclude by saying anything that I said that was good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that I said is an error is from shaitan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And always consult a scholar. And I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, inshallah.